The scream was so small, so fragile, yet it sliced through the warm afternoon breeze like a blade. Harper Linwood, the famously unshakable CEO of Linwood Enterprises, froze on the gravel path outside her countryside retreat as a tiny girl with tangled brown curls came running toward her. Dust clung to the child's dress, her cheeks streaked with tears. For a second, Harper could only blink. She had come here to escape chaos, to recover from months of brutal negotiations and loneliness she refused to admit, but fate clearly had another plan. The little girl tugged Harper's sleeve urgently, pointing toward the dense woods behind the cabin. Her voice cracked. "Please. I can't find my daddy. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and helping those in need, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the Story Grid. Your support keeps these meaningful stories alive." Harper's breath hitched, a strange protective instinct rising inside her. She dropped her leather bag and knelt. The girl's trembling hands said enough. This wasn't a childish game. Someone was actually missing. Harper's mind sharpened instantly. She wasn't a mother, she rarely dealt with children, but she knew fear when she saw it. And she knew she couldn't walk away. The girl's name was Nora, about 6 years old, and she explained with sniffles that her father had brought her to the countryside for a picnic. He had stepped into the woods to look for their runaway dog and never came back. At first Nora waited. Then she called. Then she panicked. She ran until she saw the cabin, and Harper scooped the girl's small hand into her own and sprinted toward the dark tree line. Leaves rustled overhead as sunlight flickered through the branches. The woods felt vast, deeper than they should have been, with uneven slopes and thick shrubs swallowing the narrow path. Harper shouted the father's name, Miles, again and again, but the forest answered only with distant birds and the crunch of twigs under her shoes. Nora clung to her like a lifeline. As they pushed farther in, Harper couldn't ignore the twist in her chest. She had spent years fighting to prove her strength in corporate boardrooms, yet here she was, breathless and shaken by the fear of losing a stranger. Maybe she was tired of being cold steel. Maybe she was tired of being alone. Or maybe the child beside her had simply stirred something she didn't know still existed, compassion that had been buried beneath ambition. Minutes stretched like hours. Nora's steps slowed, her little legs trembling, so Harper lifted her onto her hip despite the burn in her arms. She called louder now. "Miles. Can you hear me?" Her voice echoed between towering trunks, growing more desperate each time. Finally, the faintest groan floated through the stillness. Harper whipped around, her senses flaring. "Nora, did you hear that?" The girl nodded fiercely, following the sound. Harper pushed through a thicket and stumbled into a small clearing. There, half hidden beneath a fallen branch, lay a man, dusty, scraped, and clutching his leg twisted at an unnatural angle. His face was pale, but when he saw Nora, his eyes sparkled with relief. Harper rushed to him, carefully dragging the branch away. Miles explained in strained breaths that while searching for their dog, he slipped on damp soil and tumbled down the small slope, trapping himself. He had been calling out, but his voice had grown too weak. Nora sobbed into his shoulder as Harper checked his pulse and injuries. Harper immediately dialed emergency services, giving precise coordinates, her voice firm and steady. While they waited, she cleaned the cuts on his arm using supplies from her cabin. She had sprinted back earlier, refusing to leave them helpless. She tore strips of cloth to slow bleeding, all while reassuring Nora, who never let go of her father's hand. The sunlight filtered through the trees gently now, warming their faces. The air seemed calmer, as though the forest itself was exhaling. Miles kept thanking Harper, his voice trembling. He feared he wouldn't have made it another hour. Harper simply shook her head. Something about his gratitude felt unfamiliar, almost overwhelming. She wasn't used to people needing her for anything other than contracts and profit margins. When rescue arrived and Miles was safely lifted onto a stretcher, Nora hugged Harper tightly. "You helped save my daddy. I'll never forget you. Harper felt her throat close as she stroked the little girl's hair. In that moment, she realized she had been craving connection, a reminder that even powerful people sometimes needed to feel human again. As the ambulance drove away, Harper stood at the edge of the woods, watching the fading siren lights. The cabin felt different now, not a retreat from life, but a reminder that life still had room for tenderness, for unexpected purpose. Maybe she wasn't as alone as she thought. Maybe today had changed her as much as she had changed theirs. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like, comment, and share the video. It truly encourages us to create more meaningful stories for you.